In the studio, Sal Peralta. Welcome to KLYC.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
What do you think are the biggest issues in the county commissioner's race?
Well, really, we have candidates with a variety of backgrounds and experiences. In my case, one of the main things that differentiates me and my opponents is just experience at working with people in all levels of government, both state, federal, county. And the work that I've done over the last 6 years, I think, will go along, and the relationships that I've built will go a long way to helping move the county forward. In terms of what I'm focusing on in issues, the overwhelmingly what I hear on the doorsteps, and I've knocked on 1,500 doors personally, and our campaign will have done close to 9,000 doors that we've by the end of the primary election, is jobs in the economy. We have so many people who are unemployed, underemployed, who lack the opportunities that they need, and really it comes down into two core areas. First, vocational training. What can we do so that more people who are not qualified for a lot of the jobs that we have right here in Yamhill County can get qualified? And then the second is making sure that we have opportunities for people who are graduates of the local high schools and for adults who are living here to work and to earn a good family wage. So jobs and economic development are right at the core. I also think that some of the movement that the county and the school districts have made towards early childhood education should be continue to be a priority. We also have a lot of pressure on the Yamhill County Sheriff with respect to public safety. I see that Polk County has now, initially they had cut back to 20 hours of sheriff service, and now they're down to less than 12 hours of daily sheriff service, particularly in the rural areas.
Yeah, we've been told 10.
Is it 10? Yeah. It's a huge cutback. And I actually had the opportunity to go do a ride-along with the sheriff's deputies last month on a Friday night.
Yamhill
County sheriff's deputies. And it's amazing how much they accomplish with the crew that they had. They had a full crew on that Friday night, and there were 4 deputies running around the county that night. And I was supposed to go from 6 p.m. to midnight. And around midnight, we kept getting calls out in Newburgh and Carlton. Finally, around 2:30, we got a weapons complaint on the Polk County side that there was no Oregon State Police to respond. The tribal police were closed for the night, and the Polk County Sheriff was closed for the night. So the Yamhill County Sheriff, one car, had to go and respond to a potentially dangerous situation. And so, when I look at public safety, particularly in the rural areas and also in the towns and other jurisdictions where the county sheriff provides essentially city enforcement, I think that there is a significant challenge facing Yamhill County, and a lot of that pressure is the result of cutbacks in other counties.
And we've talked about that issue with a number of the other candidates, and so we'll broach that issue right now. If it comes to the situation where, and what would be the trigger point? I guess it's pretty much open to speculation as to what would bring that. Maybe there was here's a scenario, possibly could happen. Let's say Yamhill County was answering a call in Polk County because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was available to answer a call for service. Maybe it was a weapons complaint. Maybe it was a break-in at that time of the night. And something happened in Yamhill County, and somebody got hurt because a Yamhill deputy was involved in another county. That could create some liability for Yamhill County.
Well, I'm not sure if it would create liability in the strictest legal sense, but it would certainly create a public safety challenge. And what you don't want to have happen is have 4 deputies on duty, and 3 or 4 of them have to respond to a complaint in Polk County, and it leaves the rest of the county in a bit of a bind from a public safety standpoint. I mean, we're pretty fortunate in Yamhill County, even with the problems that we have with the interoperability of the emergency radio system, that there's a lot of support from the city police. Carlton, in particular, among the small jurisdictions, has really done a great job of training up some good officers who have provided great backup and great lead, at least on the night that I was there. And the people that I have had interactions with have had nothing but positive things to say about the Carlton police. They've done a great job. But yeah, and I think that the county sheriff has done a very good job with pretty limited resources, and also what the emphasis is moving towards with respect to public safety is this new evidence-based decision-making initiative that Yamhill County is really pioneering. And basically the idea is we want to lower the criminality and the criminal behavior of folks who are entering the criminal justice system. And what that means is we need to, at every opportunity that the system is interacting with people who are at risk, that they follow a protocol that will improve the outcomes in as consistent. Sorry, my phone was ringing in the background. It was a little distracting.
Oh, it's
okay. The issue with evidence-based decision-making is that basically you interact with a person at the point where the deputy makes an arrest, at the point where the person gets taken into custody, at the point where they are at their pretrial hearing, at the hearing, and after the trial. We have opportunities to orient people into a more productive set of circumstances. So we have opportunities to get people maybe who have an addiction problem or an alcohol problem or other mental health issues, get them tracked away from these kind of negative behaviors and more towards job training and getting a steady job, dealing with anger management issues, dealing with addiction, and you know, that reduces the occupancy of the Yamhill County Jail. It decreases long-term costs because instead of having to lock people up, we actually have people becoming more productive. And those are all very positive steps, and the county has, you know, received national funding and national acclaim for its work in that area, and I'd like to see that continue.
Economic development, jobs, that's another thing people are telling you. We want jobs. We'd like to see the economy a bit stronger here in Yamhill County. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. As I mentioned, vocational training is one component of that. You know, when businesses are looking for a place to relocate, the first question they ask is not, what is the tax liability in your county? We actually have a fairly low tax liability in Yamhill County relative to other counties for businesses. But the first question they ask is, where am I going to hire my workers? And so, as I said in the earlier remarks, vocational training is going to be really, really important for Yamhill County. But the second thing that's really important is to take advantage of programs that are out there to recruit new businesses and to assist the businesses that we have to improve their processes. So in terms of business recruitment, one of the areas that Yamhill County has historically really fallen down on is leveraging existing programs. For example, the state of Oregon has a strategic investment program that basically says if you're going to invest $25 million in a capital construction project in or around the urban growth boundary of a reasonable sized town, say McMinnville or maybe Newburgh, we're going to give you tax credits to help make that happen. The point is we want to increase investment in economic activity into the county. So that's, you know, the kinds of construction jobs that come with business relocating here. For the purpose of expanding your workforce over the long term. So if you have a company that's going to spend $30 million on a capital construction project in Yamhill County for the purpose of hiring 100 new workers, that's the kind of behavior that we want to encourage, and there are programs out there to do that, and we have not leveraged those in years past. That's something that would be a focus for me if I'm elected. Going back to vocational training, all three Yamhill County commissioners sit on the board of WorkSource Oregon. which is an entity that provides, among other things, provides assistance to businesses for the purpose of improving the training of their workforce. It basically helps subsidize the cost of employees as they're going through a training period. That's something that we can champion in a way that maybe the commissioners haven't, making sure that businesses are aware of programs like that or programs through WorkSource Oregon that they can use. And then the other part is making sure that the funds that are spent through WorkSource Oregon are spent wisely and well. We've had, not in Yamhill County, but on the Polk County side, kind of early on in the program, we had situations where a company would hire somebody through the federal program to help subsidize the cost of their employment, lay people off at the end of the period of the term, and then rehire them again at a lower rate. So the program wasn't serving its purpose, and we need to make sure that that money is being spent well.
One of the things that we're going to spend a lot of time on this, but the radio station has taken a very strong position on Wallace Bridge. What's your position on Wallace Bridge? Do we need to kind of recap where we are, or would you like to take a shot at it?
Yeah, so to help the listener understand, Wallace Bridge is an equestrian facility that has been planned and developed by J.W. Milligan. It basically involves a piece of land that currently has a conservation easement on it, and Milligan basically is proposing to purchase another piece of land that is somewhat adjacent to the Wallace Bridge property, and then would essentially swap that land for Wallace Bridge, on which he would develop this multi-million-dollar equestrian facility. The benefit to the West Valley could be tremendous. I mean, when Milligan talks about it, he says, we're going to have a payroll the size of Cascade Steel. It's going to bring in wealthy visitors from around the world who might have an interest in long-term investing in the county, and it'll just really open up Yamhill County to an entirely new class of tourism, and all of that seems fine. On the point of the West Valley, I can think of no area in Yamhill County, or really very few areas in Oregon, that have been treated worse by government. You look at Sheridan Willamina's economy that is so rooted in timber and the loss of jobs as timber industry has declined due to environmental regulations and other concerns. That area has been hit really hard, and over the past few decades, the federal government has been providing subsidies to cover the cost of the O&C lands and other timberlands that are federally owned, for which the county for which the area receives no tax benefits. So it's helping to subsidize education and police and public safety in those areas. But really, that money's running out. And so we need to take more steps to improve the local economy. Projects like Wallace Bridge don't come along all that often, and so when you have an opportunity, you really want to try and make things work as best you can in situations like that. And hopefully, over time, we'll be able to do more to bring the two sides together and figure out if there's a way to move the project forward. Just from the outside, looking at that project, it's almost like watching two armed camps, and I can kind of understand where J.W. Milligan is coming from, because on the one hand, he's gone through this process, he went through a formal appeals process, he won the appeals process, only to have the rug pulled out from under him by a higher up agency that said that the agency that made the ruling in his favor didn't have jurisdiction over that. And I cannot imagine, as a citizen, going through the emotions of winning an appeal
and spending the money
to go through the appeals process, only to have another agency say, no, sorry, just kidding, that didn't really count or didn't really happen. That I mean, anybody would be perfectly rational to be incredibly frustrated by that. I mean, what happened to him in that circumstance is really unconscionable.
And the station is, real quickly, the station is taking a position supporting Wallace Bridge. We've looked at the ground. You talked about the land swap, the easements, the swap. We went out. We took pictures. We walked the land. We've had numerous phone calls. The last one, the Natural Resources Conservation Service all but hung up on us. We're asking Senator Ron Wyden to get involved. We're not getting an answer from his office. The second appeal that was denied by the National Appellate Division, they used as basis, we view it as administrative reasons. J.W. Milligan did not have a legal position to file the appeal.
He didn't have standing because he didn't own the ground that he was planning on dealing this swap.
And then another concern about that we have is that they talk about the compelling need for the Wetlands Reserve Program. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about compelling need, when you use the word compelling need and you talk about the West Valley, one of the compelling needs we see is jobs. They've lost their bank. They almost lost their grocery store. There's some other businesses that we shouldn't probably speak of that we know that they're on maybe going out as well. That part of the county is being really hammered.
It really is, and it's amazing how community oriented the people are who are involved in, say, the Willamina Chamber of Commerce. I've been there now once a few weeks ago and have met with several of the folks involved in that, and they are doing so much to try and keep that community afloat. And I have not seen a group of folks who were that active and that hands-on in that type of a community board. The other issue that's going on right now in Willamina is it's one of three areas within the county that have a school bond coming up. And Willamina's school bond is a little different than the others. I mean, I think everyone who is going forward with the school bond would tell you that their bond is absolutely critical to the long-term success of their kids. But when I look at that one in Willamina, they went forward with a $4 million school bond in the last election cycle and were defeated. This time they've cut the school bond in half. It's $2 million. The school is in desperate need of a fire suppression system, and rather than connecting it to city water, they're connecting it to a nearby pond to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in project cost. They're doing modular classrooms, which are badly needed. That school is almost like a magnet school for every surrounding community. It's heavily overused now and really needs this funding. They've even written the bond in such a way as to put any savings that's realized during the construction project back into buying down the note of the bond. And the other effect of it will be to put a metal shop in and an ag sciences shop that can train Willamina school kids for jobs that they can do right here in Yamhill County. And I guess one thing I'd say is that I hope that the listeners in that area will support the school bond. I support the school bond. One of my opponents, Bill Willis, who has described himself as a fiscal conservative, but he was on the school board, supports the school bond. And I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to that part of the county. The other thing I'd say is that as commissioner, that's a big lift for Willamina and other school districts that are doing some similar things. Those are big lifts for these communities. And as commissioner, one of my priorities is going to be to work with the state legislature, work with our federal representatives to improve federal and state funding for vocational training, particularly when communities like these ones make the heavy lift. There's no reason why we could not bring in additional state funds to help support ag sciences or metal shop, that type of thing in districts like Willamina, and I think that's something that we should be doing.
One of the issues we probably should talk about is the issue about medical marijuana dispensaries. What's your position on that?
Well, my mom is a cancer survivor. She's had a medical marijuana card. I think it helped her with her loss of appetite. But I'm originally from Colorado, and I've seen both the implementation of their medical marijuana law, which is more relaxed than the one here in Oregon, and the implementation of their recreational drug law. And I got to say, I'm really concerned by what I've seen over there. I think that they're going too far, too fast. I think that it makes sense that a lot of the communities in the county that have put a one-year moratorium on it have done the right thing. Because although this is legal at the state level, it's still illegal at the federal level. And all it would take would be a change in the administration to change how the federal government enforces this. And so I think that's a legitimate concern. The other side of it is just a public safety issue. You have in rural parts of the county a lot of drugs and a lot of cash because there's still an issue with banking, federal laws against banking drug money, basically. And so that creates a public safety risk and puts additional pressure on law enforcement. So I think that it makes sense to kind of slow down that process. Now, having said that, the state legislature has flat out said, you cannot bar these facilities. You can have a moratorium for a year while we work out the law, while we try and work out some of the legal kinks, but at some point you're going to have to start putting those things in. What they have done is allowed the counties and local jurisdictions to set time and place restrictions, so you can bar them from being a certain distance from a school. You can set certain hours of operation that they're allowed to operate in, but eventually, unless the law changes, that's going to be something that will happen here in the state of Oregon, unless they move back, peel back what they've already passed.
Okay. What other issues? We've talked a lot about public safety, medical marijuana, a number of other issues, economic development, Wallace Bridge. As you look at your campaign, and as you look at now the position you're running for, position 1, there are 5 candidates running for your job.
Right.
So the competition is pretty intense there.
Yeah.
What sets you above the others?
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think the relationships that I built, both in state, federal, and county government, I'd also say my record as an employer. I think I'm the only person running for this position that's employed as many as 100 people in my own company. That process of owning my own business, of actually being responsible for other people making their own obligations to be able to pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, that really changed my outlook on the relationship between business and government, and probably made me a little more conservative than I was as a younger person. Just because you as people come to depend on you, you learn, okay, I've got to bring in this amount of revenue, and the first thing that gets paid are my employees, and the last thing that gets paid is me. So
welcome to small business.
Exactly. So I've got a record as an employer. I have experience managing large-scale enterprises in a way that I think most of my opponents don't. Also, just the work that I've done in the state legislature, my emphasis has been economic development, consumer protection, increased transparency in government, and campaign finance reform. And at least 2 or 3 of those areas really touch on things that we'll deal with in the county commission. For example, transparency in government. This past legislative session, the Democratic Majority Leader, Val Hoyle, tried to pass a bill that would have essentially gutted the state's open meetings law, allowed government to make decisions about, make financial decisions in secret, effectively. And we got wind of that, went and testified against it, lobbied legislators against it, got the newspapers involved, and we killed this effort. But for me, transparency in government is incredibly important. I know that most of the commission meetings, all the commission meetings, are held during the day, which makes it difficult for people who work to come and attend those meetings. One thing I'd like to do is to make the audio transcripts available and archived for the commission meetings, so that people, if they can't attend the meetings, can at least listen to them for some period of time after the meeting's been held. That's currently not the case. Wouldn't mind getting video feed of commission meetings and to archive that and make that available to the public as well. But most importantly, I think it's just a commitment to improving transparency in government. With regard to economic development, everybody in the race is talking about economic development, but I think very few of my opponents actually have experience with working with state government and in private business to actually take advantage of programs that relate to economic development. Marion County's done a great job with economic development and leveraging state funds for economic development. Washington County certainly has done a tremendous job, particularly in the Hillsborough area, leveraging state funds to bring in new businesses. And we really haven't done that here, and we need to do more of it, and that's a big priority for me.
What do you see for the future of Yamhill County? Are we going to be more wineries? We've got a lot of wineries here. Industrial, technological. We're talking about Precision Ag Expo, which you probably attended part
Absolutely,
of.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff there. What does it look like? What does the future look like?
I think the future for the county is really bright. That everything that you mentioned is going to continue to grow. The tourism economy is going to continue to grow in the county. Precision ag. This is going to be a hotbed for precision ag and the development of those types of facilities. High tech. I've had conversations with one company that is contemplating, one investor who's contemplating bringing one of his companies here to the space currently operated by Evergreen. And these are potentially hundreds of family wage jobs, technical skilled jobs that people can do right here in the county. And I really think that the future is bright for Yamhill County. But in order to make sure that happens, we need to do what we can to invest in both workforce training, vocational training, and early childhood education so that kids have opportunities. And we need to bring more businesses into the county and make sure that the businesses that we have an opportunity to succeed.
Sal, thank you for coming here on the show. I think this is the second time you've been here, and probably will be the last time we have a long-form interview with you before the primary election. Of course, if you continue on to the November general election, we'll have you back, as we'll probably have at least a couple of interviews with each candidate. We believe strongly as a radio station it's our job to get the issues out there. I know sometimes we have had, I won't call them complaints, but concerns that we're going to turn this into a news talk station, which we're not. But we still have issues that we need to talk about in the county.
Well, and I appreciate that it's such a public service that you're doing. One thing I'd like to make your listeners aware of is I have put together an 8-page newspaper for my campaign that basically describes who I am, why I'm running, what are the issues that I care about, and that talk about some of the issues that we're dealing with. I take a crack at Riverbend landfill, to try and add some light to the discussion that has generated a lot of heat here in the county. We talk about early childhood education. We also talk about the Yamhill West Sider Trail, Rails to Trails. That's a program that really should be discussed because it's one way that we can not only improve our recreational infrastructure but also protect our rail transportation infrastructure over the long term, protect those rights of way so that at the time when we're able to bring more rail into the county, we can do that. But anyway, so I'd encourage folks to look at their coffee shop, library, or just check their mail for this campaign newspaper that will be coming out in the next week.
And of course, the interview that we've just completed or are concluding right now, you can catch on our website. It'll be on if you go to KLYC.us, click here to listen live. There's 6 radio stations with different formats, everything from jazz to big bands to rock to Southern gospel. We just added here the last couple of days. But there's also an option called KLYC News Channel, and we're going to put this interview on that. It will be on a continued loop, and you'll just be able to hear this at your discretion. We'll also put it on the News tab, Recent Interviews, and you'll be able to hear the entire interview whenever you want. You sit down and click on it, and you can listen to the whole thing with Joe Shipley and, of course, with Sal Peralta. Sal, good luck on your race.
Thank you, Dave. Have a great day.
AM 1260 KLYC. More to come on the Wake Up Call here on KLYC. And again, check our calendar at KLYC.us, and you'll see the other candidates that are coming up for interviews on the morning show.